Good morning, everyone. For those of you who are already here, I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to take you to the south of Bangladesh. Back in 2009, some of you may remember, there was a cyclone, and it swept through the southwest of Bangladesh and hit a lot of families, and it struck. One family in particular that I want to talk about is Farzana and her family. She was growing rice, mangoes, and lemons on her land in the delta of Bangladesh. And they had a good living, but as a result of the flood, their house was destroyed, their land was completely submerged, and to make things worse, because of the extreme heat in that part of the country, the salinity of the land was peaking. As a result, the traditional rice culture that they would cultivate there was completely devastated. So also nutrition-wise, they were heavily impacted. Now, when an extreme climate event like that happens, households are not very well prepared, but importantly, women tend to be more affected and have more impact of these negative shocks because they're more vulnerable and they have less coping strategies. So the coping strategies that they are using really impact their well-being. As a result, at that time in 2009, one in five families actually migrated out of the place to other parts of the country. Now, also that is more difficult for women to leave extended families behind, leave their homes and lands behind, more so than men. So when women like Farzana face higher risks, have greater vulnerability, and as I said, fewer tools to cope with these kind of impacts. At the same time, we know that women can contribute and have important roles to play in the action against climate change. And I imagine for those of you who've come to this session today, you want to learn more about what financial services can do to help people like Farzana. I think we have a perfect panel to discuss that. My name is Antonie Koning, and I'm a senior financial sector specialist at CGAP. CGAP does a lot of work on the intersection of climate, financial inclusion, and gender. And I'm very, very pleased to be joined today by superb experts who can help us think through the role that financial inclusion can play to help promote women's resilience, resilient livelihoods, especially in the view of increased shocks, not only climate shocks, but there are many others that we can talk to. So I'm joined live here by three powerful women. I'm starting on the far right for all of you, Ms. Madour Al-Hiari, who's the Director of Strategic Planning and Business Development at Microfund for Women, all the way from Jordan. Next to her, we have Ms. Veronica Namagemba, who's the Managing Director of Pride Microfinance in Uganda, moving to the southern part of Africa. And then on your far left, we have Ms. Francesca Christ, who's the Global Head of External Affairs of Women's World Banking, who comes from a little closer to here, I understand. But we also have two panelists who are joining us online, and you will see them as they speak. From India, on the right-hand side, we have Dibajyoti Patanaik, who's the Director of Annapurna Finance. And to the left, we have Ms. Turaya Triki, who's the director at the European Investment Bank and also normally based here in Luxembourg, but now joining us from Brussels, where lots of other things are happening today. But we're very happy that both of you can join us online, and you're very visible here in the room, so we feel you're partly with us in person. All of them will share promising innovations, experiences that they have in their country, in their region, and also global practices. And what we together try to do during this session is explore potential areas of collaboration that can help us together around investments, technical assistance, research, or advocacy towards financial institutions' increased impact in the lives of these women. We'll be focusing our discussion on four specific areas of content. One is health, one is agri-food systems, the third is climate, and then the fourth is energy. And throughout you will hear some aspects of how digital is enabling all of these innovations that our colleagues are sharing. Through this discussion and exchanging with all of you, because we hope we have time for that at the end of the session, we really hope to advance the knowledge of why this topic matters, what works based on the experience of all of them and some of you in the room here as well, and then how can we scale some of these great ideas, these innovations, to really have a massive impact and increase women's resilient livelihoods. So we have our work cut out for us today. It's going to be a very busy session with many people speaking. And we're starting with the first topic, as I mentioned. Why does this topic matter? Why does it matter to think about women's resilient livelihoods? And I'll first turn to you, Francesca, because Women's World Banking has been doing some global research on this topic. And I would like you to share with all of us what you have learned. And I know I'm only going to give her very little time, so you will have to read the rest of it yourself, but go ahead, Francesca.
Thank you, Antonique, and good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming to the session. Simple statement, financial inclusion is critical to ensure women's economic empowerment and social equity. And it is a sorry fact, and Antonique mentioned it beforehand, that low-income women are typically disproportionately affected by shocks, economic shocks, and of course climate change. Did you know that women are 14 times more likely to die compared to men as a result of a climate disaster? And that it is estimated of the displaced people by climate change, 80% of those are women and girls. I think those facts speak for themselves. So I'd like to zero in on climate change and illustrate why financial access is not a hoped-for outcome, but actually a prerequisite to building women's and girls' prosperity and resilience. Antonique mentioned we've just published a report called Finance, Climate and Gender. And given the limited time I have, I do urge you to go to our website on Women's World Banking and download the report. It's really a fantastic compendium of data, and I'm going to share a couple of stats which are quite frightening, but also a whole lot of examples of how to build women's climate resilience, adaptation and mitigation. And these are not just Women's World Banking can't do this on their own. So there's an array of examples from across the globe. So we crunched some numbers and identified that over 753 million women in the most climate vulnerable regions lack basic financial services needed to withstand any kind of challenges. And worse still, an even greater number of women, 880 million, don't have any way of receiving emergency relief payments in case of a climate crisis. And you can imagine, I mean, we're hearing terrible news across the world from drought, flooding, extreme temperatures, that if you don't have access to funds, what are you going to do? So with the women, go the girls, go the families, go the communities. And so this is why we say that financial inclusion is really, it's so foundational. So what does this mean? How do we strengthen financial resilience? It means having a safe place to save, receiving insurance payouts for climate-related events, and credit to support business investments. And, I just touched on it, having secure digital payment mechanisms to receive government assistance and access funds from family and friends. To tackle these disparities and build climate resilience, actually new approaches are needed. So the tools are there, the financial tools, services are there, but combining these with non-financial solutions, such as early warning systems, community training, and digital financial literacy programs is essential. And let me give you two examples. Excuse me. Climate Resilience for All is an organization that is focused on extreme heat and combating the detrimental effects. They've worked together with an insurance company to produce an insurance product that actually kicks in and releases payments when a certain temperature level has arrived, so at 42 degrees. And you can imagine many of the informal workers in countries with extreme heat, this is absolutely life-changing and life-saving if they receive those. One more example, and I'll be wrapping up and handing back to Antonique in a minute. Friends of Women's World Banking, which is an affiliate organization in India, they're actually tying climate education to microloans that they hand out, and they're working with their customers to build plans for climate risks. So these are just two very small examples of the many, and like I say, go to the report. You can really, it's a fantastic read. So with that, Antonique, back to you.
Thanks so much. And you've already started moving into, from the why, as what some of these organizations are doing. But I want to take it back to the why question. Veronica, explain to us why resilient women, or the resilience livelihoods for women is important to your inclusive banking strategy at Pride in Uganda. And I'll ask the same from Badur after that.
Thank you and good morning to you all. Mine is going to be a story, without repeating what Francesca said. Sophia was 13 years old, walking to school every day. And a taxi driver started giving her a lift to school. At age 14, she was pregnant. And the parents were so disappointed, discarded her out of their home. So the taxi driver takes her, rents a room in one of the suburbs in Uganda, in Kampala. She delivers a baby boy. But in the process, she develops fistula. And the taxi driver dumped her. There she was, uneducated, with a baby. And she started washing people's clothes to survive, to pay rent, to feed the child. And because of the fistula problem, she was discarded among the people. But among the people she washed clothes for, one lady was our customer. And she was complaining to her that, my back, as I bend, in Africa, when you're washing, you bend. And with that weak back, so she was complaining about the back. So the lady brings her to Pride Microfinance to get a group loan. No security, no collateral, they just meet on a weekly basis. So she gets her first loan. She learns how to save. The first loan was equivalent to 38 euros. And she goes into a second-hand market, buys children's clothes, shoes, and toys. Learns how to save. Through our CSR, we were able to take her for treatment for the fistula. The business grows. The man comes back. They get married. She now has 4 children, well educated, has buildings and a big supermarket that employs 36 people.
Excellent. A very happy story for Sophia and a clear role that the financial service provider played in here. Badur,
yes.
Microphone for Women also has an inclusive banking strategy. Why is it important for you to focus on resilience of women's livelihoods?
Yeah, I bring another perspective because this was very important, but I would say that because when we dig deep into any problem that we have, whether political, economic, I will be speaking about Jordan. When we dig deep into this, we will see that gender gaps is part of the problem. And I will quote what the UN always says: gender parity is a cornerstone to achieve UN Sustainable Development Goals, and it's true. For example, in Jordan, I will bring the big picture. Female make up around 56% of the educational system. However, they participate in less than 15% in the workforce, which is a burden to the Jordanian economy that didn't take the returns of the investment that it put on education. So, and the same studies shows that if women participate in the workforce up to 25%, this will impact the GDP annually by 5%. Talking about the informal sector, there are more and more issues. So also the Jordanian, the informal sector is about 50% of the Jordanian economy. And whether owning a business or as workers, female participate in a high percentage at the informal sector. And this is where we work. And we recognize that they have lack of protection as workers or as business owners, lack of education on how to manage their business, lack of access to market, lack of access to health, to insurance. And that's why we feel if we try to figure out to bridge these gaps, we will contribute to at least 50% of the issue in Jordan.
Excellent. So you've heard three very different perspectives already from different geographies. We're just moving to India now. And if I can ask Dibya Jyoti to give a perspective from Annapurna Finance, why is the focus on women's resilience so important to your inclusive banking strategy?
Thank you very much for allowing me to talk to you and my experience at Annapurna Finance in India. I think the critical understanding which the other fellow panelists have also expressed is the gender disparity in India on different aspects, like whether it is access to sanitation, access to clean energy, clean fuels, bank account or finance. All these, you will see a huge gap, in the level of access that the women have, and it further added when it goes to the rural India. It further got even, more when you go to the tribal area of the country, and so that's what is a challenging, and also from the country's point of view, from the economic growth point of view, and from individual household point of view, we all know, and my fellow panelists have also spoke about that. It's very important for women to contribute. In fact, one of the reasons why at Annapurna Finance we decided to work exclusively with women was to create additional income streams, so that if there are any emergency to their primary income, they have the ability, a better ability to manage and handle the crisis that they face. While you're working with them on different aspects of this development, including financial inclusion and financial development, and they are coming out of the poverty, they still are very poor, and they are extremely vulnerable to any kind of an environmental shock, and they will again go back to where they were coming from. So the building the entire safety net around the access that could substantially determine how that livelihood will continue as a part of the resilience livelihood. And that's the whole reason why we at Annapurna have moved to start funding and helping women setting up businesses in India.
Excellent. Thank you so much. You've heard different perspectives of economic resilience, social resilience, climate resilience, but all of it with a very important focus on addressing the vulnerability of women and making sure that they can provide a better future for themselves and their families. I want to move to Thuraya. Thuraya, this topic has also risen high on the agenda of the European Investment Bank. And maybe you can say us a little bit about why. The EIB covers so many different topics, but why is this so important to you?
Thank you very much, Antonika. Very good morning to you and to all colleagues in the room. I mean, the justification for the enhanced increase of focus from the EIB on the building resilience for women could actually be justified or summarized in 3 points. The first one is actually our identity and who we are. The EIB is the investment bank of the European Union. We've been investing outside Europe since 1961, promoting EU values and standards while building also a win-win partnership with our developing member countries. Obviously, gender equality and empowering women is one of the important values for the European Union, and has been one of the priorities that we are pursuing through our investment. Just in 2023, we have invested about 651 million. And we are encouraged to do more. You know that there is a very important just an action plan that has been developed by the European Union, and one of the reasons that we are very keen to do more is also to deliver on the promises of the European Union and on this very important value for Europe. Second reason why we are increasingly focusing on empowering women is the fact that despite all the efforts, and I was quite actually pleased by the interventions of the various speakers, we are not on track to meet the aspiration of closing the gender gap. Just by way of illustration, the World Economic Forum has published it in 2023 that we will need 131 years to close this gender gap, and this has been now increased to 134 years. So despite the efforts, we are not on track. So we need to do more for women. We need more targeted interventions. And I found the statistics that were shared by the first speaker very sobering, showing the reality on the ground. Third, and that's actually an equally important justification for our increasing focus, is the fact that over the past few years, we are observing increasing pace and severity of crises and shocks. Hence, the importance of resilience. Our experience as a financier shows that financial inclusion has a transformative role on women. We know investing in women is one of the best ways to promote greener, more prosperous and fair societies. But what we have also observed that increasing income of women is necessary but not a sufficient condition. I think the example you provide in the beginning about Bangladesh and adverse climate shocks, where the benefits that we can accumulate and deliver through decades of investment and work could be wiped out with a hurricane or with a drought. So we need to increasingly focus on not only economically and socially empowering women and increase their income, but also ensuring that they have the necessary capacity to cope with this crisis, and they are not left with very little or nothing once some of these shocks, be it climate or health or others, take place. Thank you.
Excellent. So that's a really good summary and a nice way of recapping why it is so important to focus on women and their resilient livelihoods, and specifically what the role of or the focus of the EIB is. We already ventured a little bit into okay, everyone is now convinced, I hope, why this is important, and this is partly why you came to the session, I have no doubt, but you want to know more about what can be done about it. And so we'll talk a little bit with the speakers about the kind of solutions that their institutions have introduced, what has worked, what may not have worked so well, so that we can share some of those experiences. And as I said at the beginning, we'll do that based on the different sectors. So we'll talk about health, agri-food, and water, climate, and energy. And this is going to be looking like speed dating almost, because we're going to flashlight through these experiences, and then you can find the speakers afterwards to learn more. But we'll start with the health sector. And Microfund for Women has a partnership that focuses on a micro-health insurance product. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. First, I'd like to say why we went as a financial institution. Typically, we should be focusing on financial services. Why we want to not only non-financial services, but health. Because research has shown that the segment that we're serving, the research said that health emergencies and health conditions are among the first three things that causes them to default, because most of them are home-based business and they rely on daily income. So anything that would happen to them for 1 week that prevented them from working will make disasters on their life, on how to manage their financials after this 2 days or 1 week incidents related to health conditions. So from here, understanding this need and how it impacts their life, and definitely also their ability to repay their loan as well, we thought of a program in cooperation with an insurance company in Jordan to see what we can offer them. And we developed a product that is called Hospital Cash, where the borrower is compensated by a certain amount of money per night she spends at hospital, whether she herself as a borrower or any family members from 1 month to 21 years old. And this is also a recognition of her role as a caregiver inside her family as well, because whether she herself or a family member goes to hospital, she needs to be there to give this role. And this program has been very impactful at all levels. People liked it. It was very challenging at the beginning because at first, the segment that we serve, they lack education on insurance and they lack access to health. So they didn't appreciate insurance and they were like against it. Why should I pay the premium and not benefit from it? Why should I pay a premium and and insurance is not Sharia compliant? This is their education, and this is what they know about this 12 years ago when we started. But now they know a lot about it. They appreciate this service and they appreciate the pooling of this insurance scheme. We have conducted in 2019, in cooperation with the Women's World Banking, an impact study where we have seen that this program has been very impactful at 4 levels. The material level, so they manage their financials during these bad times. And we have seen that those who use the claims and they got paid by the insurance company, they managed even their loans as well. And they managed to buy things during the crisis, the health crisis that they had. And also, not only the material level, but also the perceptual level, how they perceive themselves as women, the cognitive level, understanding the insurance, the health system, etc. And the fourth factor was the gender dynamic inside the family. Lots of the women said, we felt that we can have a say on what to do at the time of crisis because we got the money and we have the money, we have the power, so we have a voice inside the family. So it's a very small idea, innovative idea, but the impact is huge. And what's unique about the woman and resilient women in specific, it's very difficult to deal with to offer them what they need because they need education along with the innovation, etc. But when it works, the impact is huge, really, and it's you see the impact by yourself. This program has been replicated in so many countries because it's a very successful one. I would like to say that the unique about it, it focused on win-win situation for everyone, for the beneficiary first, and of course for EMW and the insurance company, and that's why it is a successful case. So it should be a business case. In addition to this program, I would like to also to mention that before COVID, we made a partnership with a telehealth application in Jordan called At-Tibbi, which is an application that allows the client to text or talk or call a doctor to consult with general cases, what they need to do to go to hospital, or they can manage it at home. And that was just before COVID. And we offered it to our beneficiaries free of charge at the time of COVID and at 90% discount after COVID, which really helped them to use it. They had access, they still having access to this health system, which has also tips and health tips in their phone, It has been very helpful. You'll not give me time to talk more about it, but maybe
No.
in other, I'll stop here. But I'm happy to share more about it because it's also a very impactful partnership.
Excellent, thank you. And you've really highlighted the win-win-win for the customer, the business, and the partners, because also it's very important that as a financial service provider, you have to recognize your strengths and your comparative advantages, but others can complement that. So very, very interesting. We'll stay just one more moment at the health topic, and we go to Annapurna Finance. I think, Livelihoods, you are offering emergency loans in case of health emergency. So maybe just a very brief word about that. We've talked about insurance, we talked about teleservices, but what is your institution doing around health emergencies?
Okay, so we call it just-in-time loan. That loan is kind of a limit available to all the 3.2 million customers we serve across the country. It's a digital loan, and it is available to them 24 hours. We made it, as a technology, we made it as easy as possible. It can work both on smartphone and regular phones. They just need to send a text, SMS to us if they need any money at any point of time. Their bank accounts are already seeded with us with their phone number. And it takes us 5 to 7 minutes across 24 hours to send that, push that money to their bank account, and then they can take that money for any emergency use that they want to do. And right now, close to 0.5 million customers are taking this service, because it was piloted 2 years back, and now we are running it on a full-fledged. And when we do our product attribution ranking with our customers, this comes very high as the attribute, because the customers has kind of liked it, the kind of views and the ability for them to. We always wanted to do this, so the ability of the customer with this product to handle any kind of crisis, which if it's require any financial support, is far better than the other people who same set of clients of Annapurna who do not have this product. So that's clearly evident from the data that are produced in our product line.
Thank you so much. And this is really a good point about how you can leverage digital to do something fast and meet the needs of the customers. And as you said, it's been ranking high in the appreciation of your customer surveys. I'm going to stay in India, if that's okay, moving to our next topic, which is on agri-food and water. But I thought it was really interesting to hear that Annapurna is actually the country's largest financier of toilets in India. And so you're offering different loans for wash-related products, installing water pumps and other related aspects. So how does that work, and how do you kind of tie that to resilience for women in the households?
So we started giving water and sanitation loans. So this is basically toilet and clean water connections, and we have covered close to 300,000 customers by now. And the idea was, when we were doing the study to understand where the expenses are going, and we found that for most of them, the expenses were going on the health management, and then when we further deep down, we understood that almost 70% of that was coming from waterborne diseases in rural India. And that's why we thought that, in order to address this issue, fundamentally, you need to have access to clean water and sanitation. That's number one. Number two is obviously safety and security. And number three is your productive hours of getting access to those facilities. If you're going out for 2 kilometers to fetch the water, or for your sanitation facility, you're losing a lot of your productive hours. So the idea was to launch this product, and we launched this product 7 years back in collaboration with water.org. They help us design the product and do the research. And for last 7 years, the data was extremely, validating our, hypothesis on which we built this product. And we could see that the people who have access to now water and sanitation have almost 40% less visiting to the hospital. It has reduced by 40% and a 50% saving in the health expenditure. So a simple product, very small, 10,000 rupees water connection and 15,000 rupees toilet connection, but it has a huge impact, and also a better water management. So that again will improve the entire area's, habitat management as a whole, plus all the open defecation and the challenges around that. All those are also taken care of. So it's a simple product, but it has a multi-dimensional impact on customer, their livelihood, and the quality of life.
Thank you so much. And you really nicely pinpointed why this product is so important for women, that resulted from the research that you did, which I think is a really important pathway to get to design these kind of products. You also highlighted the notion of the resilience for these women actually has a larger community-wide impact. So it's a resilience for the community at large. So we're moving from health to water, to agriculture. And I want to come to Uganda now, Veronica, where you've introduced specific agricultural loans to support farmers, smallholder farmers in your community. Can you say a little bit more about the innovativeness of that and what it actually does?
What we did, we developed what we call a community banking product. And in this, originally, we had what we called the group guarantee loans, where customers were coming to our branches. But we felt that, no, we need to go to where they are. So with this product, initially, from the concept, it was targeting women. But during the pilot testing, we got some resistance from the males, because women are coming from communities, from husbands, and so on. So after the pilot, we decided to include the men. But the main activity in this product is agriculture. And it is the women who are the people that toil the land. But we saw that they were facing a number of challenges, and we introduced an insurance for the agriculture sector. This has worked magic, because there are some locations that are prone to hailstorms. You can visit and you drive community, village upon village, and all the bananas are down on the ground. So the insurance comes in to cover them. However, we went further and also introduced a guarantee, especially for the large-scale farmers, such that in case of any loss, the guarantee covers half the loss for the company. As the customer loses, the impact is not that much. Insurance covers and the guarantee also covers. Then what we did as an add-on to the agriculture product, there was this need for the clean energy loans to help them in the resilience in saving power itself. And the hot cake we saw that as these customers are getting the agriculture loans in the community banking scheme, they also love the cooking stoves, the energy cooking stoves. We call them eco stoves. And the science behind it is solar with the volcanic rocks. So it is so good, it saves a lot of energy, that even I had to install one for my home. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And you kind of jumped ahead to our energy topic, but I want to stay one more moment with the agri-food and water. And Badur, I just wanted to have a brief comment from your side, because you actually also tried and tested launching a water product, and it didn't go so well. And I think it's always admirable if people are willing to talk about things that don't work well. So I really would like you to share that in a very brief moment.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's always about context, and what every country is different than the other country. Though Jordan is number one in water scarcity worldwide, but lots of farmers don't feel it. Like we really did a focus group discussion with them, asking them of water solution, and they feel why we have water and it's there. They don't feel the scarcity of water that we have really in Jordan. So this is first barrier to offer them in reality something. Like we try to work with lots of donors and investors, but to start with the need to take a loan for water solutions, as long as they don't see the problem in reality, we didn't know how to think of a solution because the end user doesn't even see the issue or the problem.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, and it kind of jumps us to the topic of climate, where in many cases, especially problems that are ahead of us that we can't see day to day, and a lot of the people that we care about and work with are living day by day, right? So I think that's the experience that you faced. So Francesca, you already mentioned a couple of examples of innovations in the climate space that have succeeded, but maybe you can give one more example of that. I'm sure the audience is eager to read the report, but one more teaser wouldn't hurt.
One more teaser, okay. Well, let me take you back to 2014 when India launched, part of their DPI strategy, launched what is called the Jan Dhan account, which is basically a bank account for every household, and it was designed for every woman also got an account. It was very successful, over 500 million accounts were opened, all good. However, many women didn't actually even know that they had this bank account, so it was an awareness problem, and that led to many of the accounts, nearly over 55% of women had dormant accounts, so they weren't using them. So, again, it's about context. So Women's World Banking worked with Bank of Baroda, which is one of the large state-owned banks, to work with and to identify how could we increase engagement and usage of those accounts, and did extensive interviews, and the main insight was that the women wanted to get their savings out from under the mattress and into a safe place to save. And so in response, we created what we call the Jan Dhan Plus, which is basically the more you commit to saving, that then makes you eligible for emergency credit lines. And other public banks then came in, and by doing this, by adding this component, this sort of incentive to save, which led to credit, the usage increased substantially by around about 50 million women. What's the context to climate? And then I'll be handing back. So when devastating floods hit Uttar Pradesh last year, it was actually those families who had these Jan Dhan Plus accounts and the access, that gave them the access to emergency funds. So they were able to keep their kids in school, they were able to maintain levels of nutrition, and they not just bounced back, but they actually bounced forward. So it just shows that having those, and the data actually is that they actually experienced 22% less loss of income. So just showing that a simple bank account, but having that awareness, knowing it, using it, that is actually a really critical climate action.
Excellent, and it shows that you have to make sure that these solutions are attractive, these savings options are attractive. Not only they know about them, but also that they meet their needs, and then they can have a very important impact on resilience. Thuraya, I'm going to come to you. The EIB obviously is a little bit further removed from the end customer, but you have various partnerships with investment funds and other organizations that actually address the issues of climate change. Can we hear from you some of those examples? Thuraya, we're going to Brussels, not to India for now, if we can.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Indeed, the EIB is more in the, I would say, the wholesale business, in the sense that our main focus is to support private sector and public sector players, and including companies that provide products similar to the ones that we heard from the speakers. To support this agenda, we deploy several products. One is actually the lines of credit or loans that we provide either to microfinance institutions or banks, depending whether we have a retail or a wholesale approach. So usually we try to make sure that our financing is additional by providing long-term financing. We try also to combine it when it's possible with technical assistance. And very often we negotiate with our partner clients targets on the share of the financing that would go to women or to climate in line with the 2X challenge criteria. This product proved to be extremely useful because it allows institutions like the one we just heard to develop and deploy products. And one of the most compelling cases I found in the intervention of our speakers is their ability, because of the local presence, to develop and offer products that reflect the realities and the needs. What is relevant and needed in Jordan for women is not necessarily the same than in India. And the beauty of having local microfinance institutions that they understand the local context, they are present on the ground, and they can develop and deploy these instruments. So our role there is mainly to deploy the financing that they would need for the on-lending and work with them to show that it's affordable and accessible to these women. We also offer other products, and I know I have limited time, so I will mention also our equity participation in funds that also support either microfinance entities or micro insurance or insurance companies. And here I can share with you a couple of examples. The first one is the Leapfrog Fund. That was our first investment to scale up the provision of micro insurance in 2008. And the more recent investment in the Insure Resilience Investment Fund, which was a nice illustration of a public-private partnership where the public money was used to blend and de-risk private sector investment. The interesting features of these models that very often we support as an anchor investor is that they provide either equity or long-term financing to insurance companies or to other digital players to develop and deploy tailored and focused solutions for vulnerable groups, notably for women, to address and strengthen their resilience to climate change. And some of these funds offer also technical assistance, which is very important because when we operate in this space, it's very important that we tackle not only the financial, but the non-financial barriers. So again, we see ourselves as an entity that is strengthening the existing ecosystem, that is trying to crowd in private sector money and enabling the local players to develop tailored solutions to the local context and to deploy them at scale. And scale is particularly important given the challenges and the needs that we are facing. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Thoraya. And you've made a perfect segue into the third part of our discussion in terms of how do we move to scale. And you've given some really good examples in terms of public-private partnerships, crowding in the private sector. But what seems to be the most important is really to build capacity and incentives for specifically private sector players to come to the fore and develop innovations like this. I'd like to now pass through all the panelists and ask you the question, what do you see as the most important thing to actually get to scale? What is it that you think would be required to not only have these innovations be local and small, relatively small, even though India always trumps the numbers, but to really scale these solutions to make them more mainstream and part of that. And I will start, Veronica, with you from Uganda, some of the thoughts that you have on how we can scale.
I feel the number one area is collaboration and partnership. And that one also goes along with the ability to get us cheap funds. Because what we have noted that women of recent are more sensitive to the cost of money. So as we collaborate, actually, we as an entity, we have a loan that we are fully paying off from EIB in March. But the next loan that we are coming to apply for is specifically targeting women. And we hope we shall get a cheaper and good rate for the women.
Thanks so much, Badur. From your perspective, how do you think we can scale some of those innovations to really make a dent in women's resilient livelihoods?
I believe we are at a time and at a context that we need studies and research, because we started to see in Jordan changes on the behavior and the needs. The world now, the economic situation, the people that we serve, we started to see different behaviors and needs, and we started to see new players that we don't understand if they are contributing to the solution, or they are creating more problems, economic problems, because some of them are not regulated yet, like fintech companies, they are part of the market now. We have no data on them. We need to understand what they are doing. We need to understand, then to see where to go, how to scale, where to scale, etc. So I do believe that if investors can support such studies, that would be really great at this point of time. Yeah.
Thank you. So really thinking about the market system and who can play what role, and what are they currently doing, and what can we do more. And we need more information and insights on that. From your perspective. Let's move to India, where scale has a different proportion, but still. Dibajyoti, can you say a little bit more about what you think it will take to move the innovations that are required to improve women's resilience to the next level, even for India?
No, so even though scale is disproportionate for an Indian context, but it takes the same effort and same inputs in order to make it reaches the larger audience. Whether it is availability of capital, whether it is allocation of those capitals in the right direction, or research and building these products, testing these products while in test, getting guarantees, because these are for example at Annapurna, we are at the end of the day financial institutions, and we have our limitations of how much risk we can underwrite. So it need to be some risk premium need to be paid to this kind of scaling up while we scale up, whether it's through guarantee and all, and particularly helping the insurance companies to adapt to climate insurances, climate adaptive insurances. There are very fewer reinsured today. Very few insurance companies who are doing this pilots. With all difficulties, we could convince one insurance company to do a pilot with us, which was a pretty successful pilot. But even to take that pilot to a larger insurance company and to reinsure, it takes a lot of effort to get to that scale, which would start then impacting, and you can then truly say that this is a safe net that we have built around the customers. So in any kind of whether it is a climatic or human-made changes around them, disasters around them, could not impact them or impact them less, or they're prepared to that kind of a thing. So I think a lot of capital, right kind of policies are needed to do that, whether it is a taxonomy or bringing in more focused approach of this larger financial institutions who have the mighty to drive these decisions in the right direction. I think that's pretty much required.
Thank you very much. And you mentioned a lot of other things that were already mentioned by our colleagues. Francesca, I'd like you to add to that. And then I'm putting Denitsa on alert because I'm not sure if Thuraya can answer after that. I'm not sure if Thuraya is still available. But Francesca, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And picking up on what my predecessors spoke here, I'd take it up a level. So I think, the importance of policymakers and regulators actually, developing and putting in place policies that address climate challenges and the climate needs of women and other vulnerable groups is really essential to foster that systemic change. And in that context, gender disaggregated data, we've heard a lot about data and research, and ensuring that, we're looking at gender or sex aggregated data and using that to develop those products and to develop those policies which really, meet the needs and behaviors and requirements of the individuals.
Thank you so much. And we turn to all of you because I'm sure some of you have ideas about how we can scale. I'm just recapping on some of the things that we've heard: collaboration and partnerships, resources, capital, ideally cheaper, getting reinsurers also into the game. But I think also importantly what was mentioned is some of these innovations still need to be tested in their context. And for that you need some guarantees and some support in the process. And the last point, of course, around policy making, regulatory framing to support a sustained change of some of these innovations. The EIB has plans to work specifically on this topic, as Thuraya mentioned at the beginning. Thuraya, can you still speak to this, or should I hand the mic to Denitsa? I know you had a hard stop at 10.
I know. I will actually respond very quickly, and then I'll leave it between the keyboard heads of Denitsa to elaborate. So my short answer to the question that we need to have comprehensive approaches that are tailored to women's needs, but that also recognize the interconnection between the different shocks that we have discussed today, like energy, climate, health. And allow me here to elaborate very quickly. First, we need comprehensive approach that tackles in a comprehensive manner the financial and non-financial barriers, the policy bottlenecks, and also promote the data. Things that have been mentioned by the speakers, but I want to emphasize that they all need to come in a bundled offer. Why? Because I have seen personally throughout my career and through the EIB investment, a lot of intervention where we provide credit to women to support the establishment of businesses. They are very successful, but then they turn out to be in a worse situation because then they need to deal with the obligation of the new business and the obligation of the household. So equally important to giving them the credit is to work on the dynamics of the households to ensure that they are not worse off. Second, we need also technical assistance to address the demand side. On the financing, as colleagues said, we need financial products that also reflect the realities and the income level of women, the social restriction and the norms that they have to deal with. And of course, the policy side and the role of governments to ensure that we have policy that are conducive. For example, the issue of access to land, the issue of movable assets as collateral. These are important things that could become game changer for women access to financial services. Of course, in an area where we are talking about technology, where technology can become also a game changer, we need data and to sustain the development and the deployment of products. Earlier, one of the speakers spoke about the trust and the rapidity at which you need to do recollection for microinsurance. You need very often data. You can leverage also technology like satellites to collect it. That's my first message. The third one, which is equally important to our internal thinking, is that we cannot have a discussion about resilience to climate. We can isolate it from a resilience to health or to energy. We need to recognize that these vulnerability and shocks are interconnected. We know, for example, that climate change can have trigger extreme weather that would, for example, disrupt food supplies. And that has implication for nutrition performance, could cause nutritional deficiencies, that could cause climate risks. So we cannot treat them separately. Same, we know that if, for example, we promote food security, that could alleviate the pressure on health systems. So we are currently, and that led us actually as EIB to think of how can we create a platform or an initiative that one brings the scale, Second, connect these different interventions. Today we have players that provide technical assistance programs, other working on technology, other working on policy. We need to work together hand in hand to have this bundled approach and also work together to understand and build a good sense of what are these interconnections, what are the investments and the financial products we need to develop to maximize the resilience building on the on these three risks, be it health, be it climate, be it energy. We are very keen to work with like-minded players so that together we can build the evidence and deploy the necessary support to players like the ones we heard today, but many more, and really operationalize this concept of multidimensional resilience. With that, I would have unfortunately to stop, but I'm sure my colleague Denitsa will be able to elaborate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thuraya, and thank you for joining us. And this was a very passionate call to action, I think, to the audience. So let's give her an applause before she leaves already. Thank you. A passionate call to action to all of us in the room, I would say. Also a very clear proof of the commitment of the European Investment Bank. But I'll turn to all of you now. You've heard a lot of ideas, a lot of innovations. I don't think we have to dwell much on the why we focus on women's resilient livelihoods. We're all convinced about that. But I'd love to hear from all of you, or from some of you at least, questions you have either for the panelists or contributions you have to make. The only thing I would ask you is state your name and your organization and be very brief. And I see the first question over there and the gentleman in the front. And we have a roaming mic that goes very quickly. The lady at the back, please. We'll take a few questions and then go to the panelists. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My name... my name is Alexandra Sanchez from PHB. We know that social and cultural norms can be a big barrier for women's financial inclusion. And you mentioned before Microfund for Women that when you started offering the microinsurance, you had an issue with the women being worried about it not being Sharia compliant. And I was wondering how you overcame that.
Thank you very much. In the front, the gentleman over here. Anyone else who wants to raise their hand for the first round of questions? Sir.
Thank you very much. I'm Shafi Nambobi, the CEO of UGAFOD. And of course, we're happy that there are several men in the room, which is also a demonstration of the interest and the importance they attach to women. Of course, there was the issue of scale. I think that is where the biggest challenge is. When we are talking about women, especially in Africa, they are not in town. They are in villages. So how do we reach out to them? And I think I'm happy, especially when we also recognize that technical assistance is needed. And then when we talk about climate, I'm trying to imagine a time when in Uganda that during the farming season, they plant and they also keep seeds for the next season, especially maize. But now, the maize, you have to plant, harvest, eat everything, and then next season, you have to buy. And I think we see a lot of farms whereby people don't have even farm inputs. And the farm inputs they are looking for is about just some of them only look for $10, equivalent to $10, and they don't have it. So now those are the ones that we need to focus on, but how do we reach out to that level? Of course, putting in mind the operating costs. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those are good questions, and I'm sure that some of our panelists that are working on these topics will have ideas on that. Over here, and then over there, and then we'll go to the panel.
Hi, my name is Swati. I'm a consultant for Finequity. And just to kind of add to what he was mentioning, the situation in rural areas, and we have been talking about scale and digital, and they do seem to go together. Like, to scale up, you need to have a digital angle. But at the same time, like Veronica mentioned, women are cost conscious, but women also need something which is more high touch. Something which is more in person, so that there is that kind of non-financial mentoring support to go along with it. So yeah, I would like to hear from the panelists, and perhaps specifically also from Dibyajyoti, because they do deal with the scale, right? And they do have a digital aspect. So how do you balance that? Have something which is digital but still high touch for the women?
Very good question. I think you're giving part of the answer already, but we'll hear from Annapurna's experience. Over there, and then we'll go
with microphones. But hi everyone, my name is Bindi. I'm from Grameen Foundation, and I was interested to hear your perspectives. Should I be closer to the mic? Anyways, yeah. Okay. I was interested to hear your perspectives on medical insurance versus emergency loans, especially the two people who had experience in both. We have run pilots before with digital micro health insurance. And we have seen that kind of resistance from customers to take that up. They feel like it's expensive to use insurance when they don't have a health cost yet. They don't understand why they can't get a refund for their health insurance at the end of the year if they haven't had any medical emergencies, whereas the emergency loans have had a more positive uptake in our experience.
Thank you so much. I saw one more hand at the back, and I think I'm going to take that as a last question and then go to the panel in the interest of time. I'm really sorry, but very much at the back. Yep. And in the meantime, Badur, I think you can prepare yourself for the first question from the lady over there on the Sharia compliance.
Yeah.
Dibyajyoti, I turn to you for the big challenge on rural outreach and the scaling and potentially using digital. And then Veronica, you could maybe speak to the insurance solution as well. But the final question goes to...
Thank you, Antonique. This is Sahana. I head Amarante Consulting. We work in digital and financial inclusion space. And I just want to echo what Swati asked about the scale and digital and the high touch. And I just wanted to offer food for thought to the room about the postal sector. We're working more and more with posts in different countries that want to transform digitally and want to be a vehicle and catalyst for financial inclusion. We're going to have a study that's going to be out soon, hopefully, from the Universal Postal Union, UPU for those of you who don't know, which is on postal sector building resilience and financial inclusion for women. I'll be happy to share it with EMFP when it's out, but I just wanted to, on that thought, think about what other physical high-touch distribution networks you have in your countries that could piggyback on digital. So not the other way around, but really choose distributions that are physical, where we can add a layer of digital and then empower women more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. I think that many people will be interested to see that study. And it is, the postal structure, of course, is part of this hybrid touch tech solution as well going forward. And Veronica, maybe if, I know that the Uganda Post Bank is quite prominent as well, so maybe you can you can react to that comment if you want. But we'll start with Badur for the first question around how to address the Sharia compliance. And I literally want to ask you all to stay into 1 minute for your answer.
I'll try to. But, so how did you address this to make it a really successful program where they see its value by themselves? And we put lots of effort, especially at the beginning, to call each beneficiary. Do you know that you have this program included? This is one aspect, that to make them feel the benefit so they can talk with each other about it. This is one thing, to see the value. In general, with Sharia compliance things, at MFW, our strategy is that let's look at what is the value behind any Sharia rule or whatever it is, and bring it to our services. Because again, our aim is that to bring valuable offers to our beneficiaries. So whether it's coming from Sharia or from best practices, from human rights, we want to bring them all into our products. So we added lots of changes internally into our offers, but without labeling them under any name. And what we always do is that we go into specific things when we ask people about their needs. We don't ask them under the label of it's Sharia or not. We ask them, okay, do you want your money to go directly to the vendor or to yourself? So if they say this or that, we got it. But if you go direct to tell them, are you with Sharia or not, they'll say, of course, no one would say, yeah, I want to go to hell or something, you know?
Yeah.
But again, the strategy is to bring the value of the things and communicate it properly to people that whatever value in Sharia, we are bringing it into our products.
Excellent.
I'd like also to comment on, if you allow
Very
me,
quickly.
on the emergency loan and
Yes, and the insurance, yes.
I believe context should determine which is best. Like for MFW, at the time of COVID, the emergency loan was the best because at that time, people needed the money for various of things, for lots of things, including the medical insurance. But for the long run, right now, after offering the microinsurance program for our beneficiaries, we believe we can also extend it to non-clients because now they know the value of it, they have seen their needs, and now they are asking us to offer it to them as a loan. At the beginning, no, it will fail. Now it's very good for them. So also it's two tools that are really good.
Thank you. I do have to stop you. Okay. I'm really sorry. I'm jumping to Veronica to also give some answers to the questions.
Yes, regarding the insurance, personally, I have this habit of always visiting all the branches and customers. And every single branch I go to, I'll get that complaint that I'm paying insurance, but I'm not utilizing it. But what I've picked as something that is very educative to the customers is to pick another customer that has experienced the shock and how insurance came out to help them. And when they hear from those customers that have really gained out of the insurance, then they are able to understand and appreciate the benefit. But it's a continuous complaint that I think lives even in developed countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think the increase of claims in insurance is the best way to sell insurance, they sometimes say. And the word of mouth is, of course, really important. We'll quickly jump to India. Can you maybe respond to this notion of achieving scale in the rural areas, doing so in a cost-efficient manner and potentially combining tech and touch? You have experience with that, so...
Thank you. So basically, in India, of microfinance institutions of our scale, which have more than 12,000 street on fit, we are reaching out to more than 500,000 customers in day-on-day basis. So physically, we are there to help them, give them the digital literacy program, and also backed by the government infrastructure. It's very critical to understand when you talk about scale. There are certain infrastructure which is not under your control. It has to be developed and be there by government or other parties because we are purely financial intermediaries. So, for example, the JAM Trinity that we in India we talk about is like the Jandan account, which is the universal identity on top of with bank account and the mobile penetration. These three have created wonder for us. Plus the infrastructure around the payment, the unified payment system which India has adopted few years back has a very good penetration today. Smallest of the shops because it's free for small transactions. And if you are transacting, it is the vendor who is paying the fee, not the transact. So there's a lot of adoption to that. And by digital literacy training, combined with digital literacy training, when, for example, we were trying to convince our customer to pay us digitally so that we can take cash out of our system in order to bring in more efficiency and safety for our staff. What happened in turn was they start, because they now know they started receiving a lot of money digitally. So it's a byproduct. We went ahead with one intention, but it got much larger than we thought. And eventually we reached to a scale of almost 75% of our customer paying us digitally. So when we reached 60%, we got stuck, and then we again further went down to understand where we are lacking, and then we realized that the smartphone penetration has a limitation. So almost 40-45% of our customer have smartphone penetration. Then we went ahead and designed, again piggybacked on our infrastructure, public infrastructure. We call it 123 pay, which can work in any mobile. So you have to create, design your product, but obviously the availability of that is backed by infrastructure which is public in nature, and then you have your own large, the fit and street which would go and then convince, train, and also looked at your whole digital stack if it is intentionally not creating any biases. So that also you need to be careful while we design the whole program and the product, because this could also create some biases, if you completely forget that angle. But the scale is very much possible, and the impact. So with that, for example, with this new infrastructure
I'm really
we
sorry.
have,
I think I
Yeah,
have
I'll
to
just-
interrupt you. Final
yes,
point.
just
Yes.
my final point. With the infrastructure we have, recently we faced a cyclone. We could push all the information around cyclone to almost entire population in that particular area that are our customers. So that kind of product can be developed.
Excellent. And I'm really sorry that you're not in the room so that people can use the coffee break to get more knowledge from you. But I think this was a really insightful comment. I think this has been an enormously interesting panel. I'm going to leave the last word to Francesca. If you had a magic wand, Francesca, for improving women's resilience, you have a global perspective at Women's World Banking. What would you ask for?
There we go. I'm going to leave you with one final stat, which is a really upsetting one, actually. Today, only 0.01% of financing, climate financing, is directed at women. That's nothing, right? If we think about the challenges ahead and the number of women. So if I had a magic wand, let's just multiply that and just increase that number substantially, and make sure that the number of women who are at risk, the number of girls and other vulnerable community members, that we can help those and mitigate that risk.
Thank you very much. And please join me in giving a big applause to the panel to say a big thank you. Thank you very much to all of you for your questions, for your attention. I think we have a coffee break right now, so thank you so much for joining us. And do find our speakers if you want to learn more.